This project is going to take us 3 class periods, okay? But let's go ahead. I'm going to break it down. I know you have questions, and I'm going to start by answering all those questions. So give me a second to explain. Screen facing forward, everybody. Screen facing forward, screen facing forward, screen facing forward. The faster you do it, the less your classmates are waiting on you. Okay, so reflections. Some of you have heard it announced if you pay attention to second period announcements. If you haven't heard it announced, I think a lot of you have heard of reflections from elementary school. But the reason we do reflections in creative writing, it's actually 3 reasons. Reason number 1, I learned by failing that there are a lot of writing contests out in the world, and only a very few of them are actually legitimate. Like back when I first started teaching creative writing, I realized kids are very motivated by writing contests. But we kind of got duped one year. There was this one that looked really cool, and then we found out it was just a way to sell you stuff. So now that I've been teaching creative writing for like forever, I know better. But Reflections is one. It's a legitimate contest. It's super trustworthy, and our school makes a big deal out of the prizes. And on top of it, that being said, there are very few chances for you to have your creative writing judged by somebody who really actually like cares and is really treating you as like somebody who is capable of doing hard things, basically.
You don't care?
I do, right. But like there's a difference between like you just giving me stuff in class and like having actual judges judge your stuff, which is pretty cool. Today, no, tomorrow, yes. Yeah, thank you. So, the theme changes every year. So this poster, starting tomorrow, it will live over on the announcements board. But you'll start seeing these posters all throughout the school. They change the theme every year, and the idea is that you get to work with the theme any way you want, which is going to be a challenge. Just like coming up with your idea for the nightly news was challenging, this will take you a little while to wrap your brain around. Okay, show your voice. What creative writing am I going to do for that? So we'll talk about that more in a second. But basically, the idea with reflections is to make yourself stand out. You guys and my 2 6th grade classes get to do reflections. My other creative writing classes this year don't get to do reflections because it will be over by the time second quarter comes around. So you basically are competing against, I would say, there's basically 90 kids who are competing in reflections, and they usually award, with good prizes, which we'll talk more about in a second, about the top 20%. So it's worth it for you. Like, not only are you going to get a grade for this in class, but you want to make yourself stand out. You want to deal with that theme in some cool, unique way that is going to make you stand out against the other 89 competitors, okay? So the idea is I can work with it. There are no limitations. In some way, my creative writing has to show, even if it's really, really subtle. There is nothing that says you have to literally say the words, show your voice. But you want it to stand out. And the goal really is to think outside the box. So, and I'm going to give you more examples in just a minute, yeah. Obviously, it's creative writing. So we want to really dig deep and think, what can I do that's different than everybody else? Like I said, it really is a cool chance to have your writing taken seriously by a judge. They actually have adult judges, and they don't just have one person judge your writing. They'll have what's called a panel of judges. They'll have 3 different adult volunteers who will read every single entry, and then they have a specific rubric that they use, which I'll show you in a minute, but yeah. So there's a bunch of other categories which you could do separately from my class, but since my class is creative writing, we're going to do what's called the literature category, which means it's writing. Yeah. Okay. So again, it's a contest. There are prizes. Our PTA, like seriously, I cannot tell you how cool of a PTA we have. PTA stands for Parent Teacher Association. They really go above and beyond. Our PTA is a strong group of parent volunteers. There are a lot of schools that I have like teacher buddies at, and their PTA basically does nothing. But our PTA, like they ran our carnival, they create the yearbook every year, they do all sorts, they do Red Ribbon Week, they do a Teacher Appreciation Week. They're constantly doing things, and a lot of it is behind the scenes, but they're always trying to make school more fun for you. So they make a really big deal out of Reflections, and they invest a lot of money in Reflections. So you'll be turning in your Reflections project on Thursday, and I'll give you a grade in class for it. But if you take the extra step of actually turning it into Reflections, which we'll talk more about, they will give you, usually it's a full-size candy bar, like just for turning it in, which is as easy as just uploading on their website. They'll give you a full-size candy bar. And then usually, because I've done this for 10 years, usually they give gift cards to the top 20% winners. And it's really cool that Reflections goes through levels of judging. The closest I've ever had someone get, her name was Savannah. Savannah got almost to nationals, which is a really, really, really good deal. But usually what happens is they take the top out of, like, they'll give gift cards to the top 20%, but then they'll take the top 4 out of that top 20, like the very, very highest top 4, then move on to what's called the regional level. So it's basically like all the kids in like a certain section of Utah. Yours gets kind of advanced to that next level, which is new judges and new levels of recognition and new prizes. And then you would go to the state level, which I've only ever had 2 kids get to that level, but it's really cool when it happens. And then I've never had somebody get to nationals, but that's not saying this couldn't be the year. This could be the year, guys. That would be so amazing. So every level, it's not like you have to submit yours over and over. If you keep getting level to level, they just automatically move yours up and up and up. So there really is. There's lots of cool opportunities with Reflections. Questions so far? Yeah.
Wait, what's the national level?
So the nation level basically is every state's winner then goes into the nationwide pool. So there's 50 entries of the best of the best. But then, and I think if you win nationals, they pay for you to travel to Washington, D.C. It is really, really cool. Washington, D.C. I think there's like a reception with the president that happens with Reflections. It's amazing. And then,
the president?
so that has happened in the past. Sometimes it changes, right? So I'm not saying that that's for sure happening this year, but at the very least, they also, they will literally publish yours. And it right, in creative writing, we don't get published anywhere besides just the night news, but yours gets published for the nation on Reflections, yeah.
How much money do you get if you win
So yes,
everything ever?
there's major scholarship money if you go to nationals. So again, I've never had somebody get to that level, but I have gotten very close before, so this is neat. Okay.
How much money is that?
I will look it up for you because I don't remember the actual number amount, okay? So as far as the actual assignment in class, you're gonna have 3 days, okay, to work on this. So because it is such a big deal contest, you really do have to give me your best stuff. So that's the first thing. Is it actually high quality? Second thing is 1 double-spaced page. 1 page typed sounds scary, but double spacing means you're really only writing like a half page, okay? 2,000 words are the maximum. Every once in a while, I do have a kid who writes so much extra that they actually have to count their words and make sure they're not going over 2,000 words. That's not my rule. The 2,000 words maximum thing is the Reflections contest rule. So double-spaced, we'll talk more about that in the future, but I think a lot of you know how to make Google Docs do the double spacing for you, but I'll show you that later. Their rule, it's not mine, it's Reflections. It has to be 12-point size font and Times New Roman, and they do require that you have page numbers. So it's a slightly different. Usually I don't care so much about formatting in creative writing, but there's rules because it's an official contest, yeah.
Here, do you have to write about something very ideal, creative?
Correct.
Or do you
So this can't be based on any story that already exists, and it has to in some way deal with the theme this year, which is show your voice. Okay, good question. Okay, next thing. Jeez. So like I said, you'll have 3 class periods, and I don't know if you guys have realized, because a lot of you have had my class before, but usually I give you 10 points for stuff we do. Like most one-day things are 10 points, but since this is a 3-day thing, it's 30 points. So we'll be turning it in on 9/15, but the reason why we're doing it early, everybody, guys focus. The reason why we're doing it early is I know some of you are really, really, really gonna give it your best. I know some of you will go crazy all out and you will spend a little extra time that's not required. So I wanted to give you wiggle room. Reflections, you don't have to upload it on their website until October 11th. So we have a little bit of time. I'll give you class time, and then if you actually turn it into Reflections, you've got a little bit of wiggle room. okay? They announce winners. Some years they've had a full-on assembly, some years they announce it through morning announcements. They kind of do different things depending on who the PTA president is every year. But they told me that this year they're going to announce Albion's top 20% in November, okay? Because it takes a while for them to judge all of those different entries. Questions? Yeah.
You said like 90 kids do it. Is that like 90 per category? Or no?
So because creative writing, like because I make it an assignment because it's cool because there's prizes, the literature category usually has a little more. There's a bunch of other categories too, which I'll show you in a second, but we're going to focus on the creative writing part.
Are you allowed to work with other people?
Good question. Reflections, no, because there are levels of judging and stuff. It's an individual thing. Yeah, good question. So when I really do mean on high quality, I am going to grade this a little bit tougher. Like I'm not trying to be evil, but I am going to grade it tougher than normal stuff. So these are the kinds of things I'm going to look for, okay? Obviously, were you actually trying to be creative? Did you try and have well thought out ideas, which might mean that you kind of need to plan out your idea. Slow and careful writing. So I'll be keeping a list. Anybody who tells me they finished after one day, I will not be giving you full points because that does not mean that it was high enough quality. You should be spending the majority of the 3 class periods I give you. And I usually don't expect this because usually I don't care about spelling, I don't care about grammar or punctuation, but since it really matters because it's a contest, I do expect that you revise yours and try and actually use spell check, have somebody read it and give you feedback and see if they can find any tweaks that you need to make. This will be one that you really have to like give it your very all. Yeah.
Since it's going to be like adult children, can we do more mature content or?
Great question.
They're going to be like PG-14.
So I would say that like I have had some in the past. There was actually somebody who made it to the state level last year, and there was a slightly mature topic. The only thing you want to think about is I don't want to do something that somebody would like. Right? You'll have 3 judges who read yours, and you're going to have different personalities. So it's kind of like debate, like judge adaptation. You're trying to make sure that any type of person would be okay with your topic. But it is okay to have, I would say, slightly more mature things, yeah. So, as far as how to make it unique, I have a bunch of ideas for you. I'm not going to read every single one, but just the type of writing you do could be one thing that really makes you stand out. So one of my students who made it the very farthest, she did what's called a 2-voice poem. And she really tried to think outside the box with how am I going to like do my creative writing. I would say almost everybody does a short story or kind of like an essay, which is not at all required, but I'm also not telling you that you can't do that. But there's so many things you could do. You could format yours in like an interview transcript format. Yours could be formatted as journal entries, or as emails sent back and forth between 2 fictional characters. Or you could pick a really cool type of poetry. You could do yours in the form of like a newspaper. Somebody did a really cool one year that looked like a real newspaper. I don't know, there's just so many things to play around with. So it's fine though. If you just choose to do a short story or a little kind of like essay, oh, that's fine. It's just slightly less unique because most people do those. So, as far as official reflection stuff, I will tell you more about this later in the week, but just so, because y'all have access to this same presentation, and just so you know I'm not like lying to you, and this is like a real thing. So this is the official Reflections website. I'll show you more about this, but I recommend that while you're trying to find your idea today, you might want to just start by kind of like poking around their website. Just kind of looking through and seeing what's here. So that's the first one. Second thing I put on here for you is the official Reflections rules. Especially if you're the kind of person who really is interested in going as far in this contest as you can, you might want to start by looking at the rules so that you make sure that you're like going to be following them right from day one. Okay, I'm not saying you have to, but I put it there for those of you who are very, very serious about this. Then, like we have kind of mentioned, there are different categories. So you can't do music, you can't do dance, you can't do, like there's so many of them. Like there's film, there's all sorts for my class because we're creative writing. But these are the specific literature or writing rules. If you choose to do any of the other ones, that's totally fine. but those would have to be done on your own time. I have had it happen. There was a girl in here who she not only won the literature category, she also won, I think, in dance and in art. So that is a possibility. And she got multiple prizes because she had entered in more than one category, but she did the other stuff on her own time. Then, the judging rubric. So screen space and forward, guys. Screen space and forward. Your judges, they have to follow these things. So why not read that at the beginning so that you know how you're being judged before you even write anything. So I'm not going to sit and read the whole thing to you. The one thing that I did think was really interesting, I kind of copied and pasted. It said, the following is a simple rubric to reference while judging each entry. All PTA reflection entries are judged on 3 criteria. They're going to judge you on how you interpreted the theme, and that's worth 40 points. And the theme is show your voice. So they're going to think, how did this kid make this unique? And did they actually deal with the theme? They're going to judge you on creativity, right? Because again, it's a contest of who has the most interesting idea. And technique. So technique might be stuff like spelling and grammar, but also technique of your actual writing and the way that you showed off your creativity. So interpretation of theme, it says, is weighed more heavily than the other criteria because a well-developed concept is more important than technique. So that means they're not going to like judge you too harshly if you happen to have one small typo, right? Entries should be judged primarily on how well the student uses his or her artistic vision to portray the theme, which is, again, show your voice. Then, because getting started is always going to be the hardest part, some of you will just need like 20 minutes of sitting and just thinking, and then you can start experimenting. But from some of my old students, these are high quality examples from many years ago. If you're stuck, you should read through some of these. Just remember, if while you're reading through them, you're confused, it's because the theme changes every year. So these examples, the theme was, the world would be a better place if, okay? But there's a bunch of different types. Some people do poetry, some people do short stories. Like I said, there's so many ways to play around with it. So it's not like you need to like read every single thing. This was the girl who did the 2-voice poem. It's really cool. But hopefully seeing some old examples will help some of you, okay? But again, the theme is different because it's kind of a couple years old, almost done. And, like I said, we're not turning this in until at least Thursday, possibly Friday. So no one should get done before that because, again, it should be very high quality. But for those of you who are interested in getting like the chance for prizes, I'll show you exactly how to upload it on their website on Thursday or Friday, but it really is easy. It used to be really involved before computers, almost done. They used to like make you package it up in this certain envelope with a sheet protector. You have to tape it on in a certain way. It was very involved. Thank heavens they got rid of that like 2 years ago. It's really, really simple nowadays, okay? But I'll walk you through it in the future. When you are ready, if it were me, here's what I would do. I would go look at the Reflections website. If you're interested in really doing well, go briefly scan through the rules. I would take a quick peek at the student examples. I would just like open up a little brainstorm document and I would try and brainstorm as many good ideas as I could come up with. Then if I were you, I would come show your brainstorm list to me and I'll tell you which one I think is the best. Then you would go open up a new Google Doc, make sure it's set up the right way, and then start very, very slowly working your way through your writing. But that being said, some of you, it might take you the rest of the period just to come up with a good idea. But it's up to you to decide, how am I going to do some sort of creative writing with the theme of show your voice. So that being said, I do expect that it's pretty quiet. Only because this is so serious, so I do really want you like in your own little writing zone. So I highly recommend putting on headphones, blocking out the world, and just focusing on writing. That being said, you may turn computers around, let me answer questions. Yeah.
So if you go on the Reflections website,
So yeah, but at the same time, like they give you a prize just for uploading it on their website. So it takes 2 seconds, you might as well. Yes. So.
Can you help me with the night and news?
In a minute, yep.
And this isn't for like the not working, but can you send us objects that you made?
So if you're doing a different category, then yes, they will have a day where the PTA people will be standing out in the commons with a table where they'll accept like artwork and all sorts of different categories. Yeah.
Is this do you have to do this, assignment?
Correct. You are getting 30 points as a class grade. So yes, this is required. Yeah.
So like show your voice, like what does that mean?
So let's talk about it for a second. You guys think, if you have to deal with this topic of show your voice, you tell me your ideas. How might you deal with the idea of show your voice? Sean, what's an
I
idea?
was gonna do a flip book and then like, your secret copies of
Cool. Okay, that's one of very many ideas. What's another idea, Annie?
I was gonna do a little literacy.
Uh-huh, yep.
And, or like a diary entry, a journal entry that probably do. Because it's off, or like something like that.
And like it has to deal with how you have a voice if you
And
don't literally
also
have a voice. Cool.
Figuratively, like, she can't stand up for herself in schools since she doesn't have a voice.
Yeah, so maybe when we're talking about showing your voice, maybe it has something to do with bullies, but also maybe not. What's another idea, Corbin? That's beautiful.
Maybe just like saying what you believe in.
Right. Talking about beliefs, what's important in your life, that might be a way of showing your voice. It might be a story about a singer, right? Something literally to do with the voice. It might be somebody who's protesting some sort of injustice in the world, and they're using their voice to stand up. What's another idea?
Oh, I was just gonna ask if I could do, for mine, can I do like letters from like back and forth?
Yeah, which is a cool, unique way of showing the story. Yep, same.
Should we do this on a Google Doc?
Yes, Google Docs is how you need to do this one. So no Google Slides, Google Doc. Other questions before I officially, then I'll help you. Okay, so again, if you're stuck, sit and brainstorm, look at the Reflections website, go look at some of the old ideas, and it's okay if it takes you a long time to come up with your idea, okay? Feel free, listen to music. Here's headphones. Okay, I'll bring your Chromebook over.